Hi everybody. This is an attempt to explain what's going on in week 5. So I'm logged into the course and I'm going to go immediately to weekly coursework. And when that comes up, I always review exactly what it says there. If you take a look at your assignments, you'll see that you have 2 important discussion type assignments this week. Let's quickly talk about the first one. I went to discussion week 5, facilitating discussions, and this is the easiest discussion board question you'll ever have to use because all it wants you to do is do a role play. In the beginning, you will play the role of an instructor. Whatever class you think you might teach online or any class that you wanted to teach, and you will create a thread, not make a new discussion. And you will say something like, our first life example, I don't know, whatever you want to, and say, dear students, here's the question that I have for you in our biology class. You will post that question and make it something that all of us could answer or any of us can answer. Don't make it too technical. You can make up anything you want. But once you post that question, everyone else in your group will pretend to be your student and they will answer the question. And then you have to deal with their answers by encouraging more discussion, or if they're doing something to disrupt the class, by changing it around, by doing anything an instructor would do to create a new discussion that was going well in the class. The thing that's the most important in this particular example is that you do this exactly the way you've done the discussion board. You post a new thread. You don't start a new discussion, or it becomes very complicated. That discussion board will be role play. You play the role of a teacher or instructor or facilitator, but you also answer your friends, your colleagues, as if you were their students. It's fun and doesn't take an extreme amount of reading or expert documentation. But let's talk a minute about the small group work. And I'm going to find the answers to that as I scroll down here. And there is small group work, the Wiki project. So I'm going to click on that. In this, you have this is a YouTube video, and it explains what a wiki is if you don't know what a wiki is. And here is the transcript for that video. Notice that we provide the visual and we provide for reading. And do look at it if you need any help with that. But this is also a link to ideas about group work. If you have trouble opening that, don't worry about it. Just right-click and open it in a new window and you will be absolutely fine. Now that article tells you some of the things that make groups work more effectively. You may have some other ideas which will be interesting to see and hear, but for right now, one of the suggestions is that every member of the group have a role. And in fact, in our small group, you will have a role and you will also have a second job that will produce the document. So what we're going to be talking about will be seen in the wiki, which I'll show you in a moment. But here are the different roles you could take. Each role is clearly defined. The trick is that there are 6 of you in the groups, and there are 7 roles. So you can decide what to do about that. You can leave out a role, you can leave out or add roles. It doesn't matter. I'd like to give you some freedom to do things the way that you would like to do it. And when you read those directions on what the roles are, you'll have no trouble at all. The thing that gets started, the most difficult part, is the timeline, because we will only have week 5 to get this work done. Now, you would never do this in your class. You wouldn't assign a group project for just 1 week, but that's the time we have, and it's important enough that we're going to stick to a very strict timeline. And your first contribution to the wiki has to be posted no later than Friday night, midnight. And the last day to post key points or comments is Monday midnight. And the final editing is done on Tuesday, the final formatting on Wednesday, and the document in its final form is posted to the Cyber Cafe on Thursday. And the reason that is true is because we want everyone in the class to be able to see the work of everyone else. Now, the communicator has the first job, which is to call a meeting, a synchronous meeting of your group. And I highly recommend freeconferencecall.com. I have been using this for about 6 years. You just set up your own account and then you send it to your people that are in your group and you can talk. Finding a common time to talk is difficult, and I'll show you some tools for that. Or you could use Skype. If everybody's comfortable with that, you could do that. There are many tools you could use. The easiest is Free Conference Call. It's okay if you have lots of questions. As soon as I go through all of this, things will become clearer for you. But let's go into your group. The group that you belong to is listed under the main menu bar. If you don't see a group, let me know. There's something wrong. We've got to get that fixed right away. I'm going to go into the blue group and notice that in the blue group you have so many options. You have something called collaboration, which is a chat room. You can check it out later. It isn't easy to use because it has to do with the latest version of JavaScript. You can use it if you want to, but I suggest everybody look at it, please. There's a file exchange where you could post the document when it's finished right there in the file exchange, and people could then, all people could see it. There is a group discussion board. There is a group wiki, which is what we're going to use, but it's neat to know that you can send email to everybody in your group. Let me do that. Let me go there. And this is the first group. And there's all the names listed. And there's these options again. And if I wanted to email everyone, I would just say send email. And then I could tell it who to send the email to. But the most interesting and the most important option that you have here, you can use these or not use these, that doesn't matter. But the group wiki you must use. So let's go into the wiki. Now, when you get here to this wiki, you will see that I've begun a document for you. And the directions for what to do are over here, and choosing a job is here, and timelines is here. So let's look at those directions. The directions give you the parameters of all that will be done, and again reiterates the timeline. Now, by the way, if you want to adapt this timeline to meet your needs of your group, you can do that as long as this project is done by Thursday morning. I really don't care, but if you decide to change that timeline, it has to be clearly stated what it is so that everybody stays within the right timeline. Everyone in the class, in the group, has to contribute, and all must be active on the wiki at least 3 days of the week. I suggest strongly that you start out, if at all possible, on Thursday or Friday, putting in your part. The final document will be in the file exchange system by Thursday, but it will also be in the Cyber Cafe. So there's your timeline. Now let's go down a little bit further and see what else it says. You get to record which role you would like to take, and I'll show you where in a second. And then technical issues with wikis. I'm even going to show you how to write on a wiki, but just give me a moment here. As in many things in Blackboard, the wiki does not want you to copy and paste. They would rather that you compose right on the wiki. It does have a spell check, but the formatting becomes a little bit rough in the wiki. Don't worry about that. If you have a member of your group who knows HTML, they can help straighten it out. Otherwise, after everything is written, the document can be copied and pasted into a Word document, and that can be the final draft so that people can edit it and format it there. the wiki that you're going to create is only going to be 1 page long. Each of you do not start your own wiki, just as you don't start your own discussion thread in the discussion board. And what to write in this wiki, well, let me talk about that very quickly here. The subject is best practices in distance learning, and these are possible subsections. There is possibility of writing an introduction. What are you talking about? Then there's the before the class begins. One of you would write down before the class begins, check all hyperlinks, make sure that the course is finished. You could do it in a bullet point list. If you start thinking about what has to be done, write a welcome message to the students, that kind of thing. It's that simple. Then during the course orientation, what must take place? A different one of you will write that. Early in the course, what things must the facilitator do? As the course continues, during the last weeks of the course, and after the course is over. Now notice there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections. Each of you will do one of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. Each of you will do one of those. And then you can decide what you want to do with the summary and the introduction. It might be that that'll be a group collaboration, or maybe someone will start it off and say, I'll take care of that and you can help me with the editing. I'm going over these things quickly, but when you read more carefully, you'll know exactly what to do. Over here were the directions. Now here's choose your job, and it's there that I'm going to show you how to work with the wiki. And here are the suggested roles. Again, you could change these roles. You could delete a role. I don't think you could possibly delete the communicator, because that's the person that's going to set up the initial chat and guide the group throughout. There are ways, even on free conference calls, that you could make the call into a recording that everybody could hear. So I'm not sure you have to have a note taker, but you can decide. We do need a cheerleader who is the monitor, and we have to have an editor, and we have to have a graphic designer. So that's just fine. And what you're going to do if you choose to be the communicator is you can't write on this wiki page, see, I'm trying, nothing happens, and people get frustrated with that. The way to write on a wiki page is to choose edit wiki content, and then you could say Carol Redline, put my name there if I was going to do that, and I might even want to make it bold so that everybody saw my name, or maybe I would even highlight it so that it's very quickly seen that this is what I want to do. All right, whatever you choose. You should make it clear who's doing each job. Now, are you finished? Well, no, of course not. Like everything else in Blackboard, you have to then click the word submit. So those two simple steps allow you to edit a wiki. And when you make edits, every version of the wiki is saved. And I'll show you that in just a few moments. So you don't have to be worried about someone writing something or losing something, because you can go back in the history of the wiki and find that something that's missing. You only have to remember that when you want to change something, you have to edit. You have to then do it. I'm going to take my name off of there. And then you have to submit it. And then that becomes the most recent version. And we'll look at that, you know, in just a minute. It's that simple. So what wikis do is allow people to make changes, and that's exactly what we're hoping you will do. Once the section is written, this is what you will see on the main wiki page. I'm going to go back up and edit it, because it just occurred to me that some of you may start the document here. This is just an example. I'm going to write that. This is just an example. And I have all the formatting tools I need to do whatever I want with this. As the wiki gets longer, and you have to go back this way. All right. And I'll probably make that bold. Your work is actually going to occur on the main wiki page, and I'll show you where that is in a minute. This won't stay there, though, unless I click submit. That's the thing that people forget. Wikis are so easy to use. All right, we've done the directions, we've done the timelines, we've done the choose your job. Now, the document itself is right here. And this is where you're going to write. So here, this might even be your introduction. Yeah, if you don't want to write an introduction, don't. It's up to you. The point of this whole project is how you work together to make something that you can use. And the idea of using this is you will have a guideline that you can share with your colleagues about what it takes to be a good online facilitator. And if you ever have to leave your course for a semester and give it to someone else, you're going to want them to teach it well. So it's for you to use. Now, the Blue Group members are, so I could edit wiki content, and I will write the names of the Blue Group members. And I don't know who they are at the moment, so I'm not going to do that. I'll just give it a quarter U kind of thing, and I'm going to submit it. All right. And the date is important, the date that you get started. Here's the introduction. You do not have to do this immediately. You don't have to do it in bullet points, but I put those bullet points in just to show you that it could be that simple. I think the introduction should be a little bit of a narrative, and maybe, like I said, it's already written. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to edit wiki content, and I'm going to go down here and take these little buttons here. I hope I can get them all. And I'm going to delete them. Good. Then I'm going to put them in here because this is where you might start with your bullet points. So all I have to do is go up here and get a bullet. And interesting, a bullet won't stay. Oh, you don't want it to be 1, 2, 3. I want it to be bullets. So I'm just going to put a little period after it. You have to have something by the bullet. So that's just an example. This is not going to be the ultimate paper of the world, folks. It doesn't have to be. Each of you knows what your job is, so each of you writes down what you're going to do. And you can quickly just do a bullet point. You know this stuff. You know it backwards and forwards. So Thursday or Friday, put in your bullet points. And when you've done that, then your friends could say, well, what about this? Don't you think we should do such and such? So they'll come in, and even though you've written these bullet points, they're going to give you suggestions. Like, do you think we need to mention, and you want to know who's writing? I can see who's writing, but it's a little bit complicated for you. So maybe I will put this like this. CR for Carol Redline, or even I'll make it Carol. The author gets to take the suggestion or delete the suggestion. And don't get yourself in a huff if somebody makes a suggestion you don't want. This is just a collaborative process, making it the best that it can be. Now I'm going to show you some examples of what people have done. This one, when the formatter got it, they went way overboard and did this kind of thing. Look at this, before the course begins, etc., and appendixes. You don't have to do all that. I mean, I was just floored. That was done within 1 week, and you're not trying to impress me. The thing that's going to impress me is that you're going to work together to decide just how you want to present this document. But look, there's the introduction, there's the bullet points, course organization. That they changed the bullet points, which is okay with me. Before the course begins, pre-course organization and course development, that kind of stuff. You don't have to do that. I mean, I just get blown away by this kind of thing. Let me see if I can find you another example that isn't so extreme. Okay, here's another one that was done just this July. You see the names of the people who did it. Then you see the introduction, and these people decided not to do bullet points. They decided to do it in paragraph form. But they used my suggestions. Oh, this next one does use bullet points, which is quite all right. I see that the editor could have changed that to a capital and done some things here, you know, but that's okay. I really don't care. The idea is that they came together to create something important. Look at this, pre-course checklist. Not necessary again, something somebody wanted to do in their section. Each person makes the best section that they can. You have the idea to how you would change that section. And it may seem overwhelming to you at this point, but actually, if everybody does their own job and stays to the timeline, you will have a magnificent something that was created by your whole group. Now let me address the main concern students have when they go into group work, and you hear over and over again that just certain people do the work and others don't do the work and they all get credit, and that's not fair. Well, it's not going to happen here for a couple reasons. Number one, we have a document here that will tell you the criteria that we're looking for. I'm going to open it in a new window, and while it's coming up, just talk to you a moment about the fact that you will grade yourself and your team, and you'll put your name in here and you'll rate yourself from 1 to 10 on timeliness. Now don't put yourself down. If you met those timeline guidelines, give yourself a 10. Rate the team member on fulfillment of role duties. You remember the roles that you had? How well did the person perform them? If they were the collaborator, did they make sure that the group did have meetings and special meeting times? If they were the note taker, did they send out the notes? Give them the grade you think they deserve. Rate the team members on the quality of their contributions. That's a sticky one. I'm going to tell you that this is anonymous, and your rating will only be part of what I do to give you the points you deserve. And quantity is also important. I can look and see how much you wrote, and even though maybe that's not the most important role, that's something that we're going to grade each other on. Now I'd like to show you what I can see as the instructor, because I see everything. When I go into the wiki, I can see each person's name and how many words they wrote or modified, and how many words the number count, the percentage of the wiki that they did. So let's look at Carol Redline. I'm the first one. I wrote 12,090 words in there just to get it started. It's not as many words as you think. I did 10% of the work. How many times did I save a page, and the percentage of times that I saved a page? Now, does that tell me everything there is to know about what went on with this wiki? No, it does not. But if I click on a person's name individually, I can actually even see what their contributions were. And I can go into it, and I can see just exactly what they wrote and when they wrote it and what they did for this wiki. So I know a great deal about what happens, which is really important. I hope that answers a lot of your questions. If not, I'm happy to answer them either in the Cyber Cafe, by email, by telephone, whatever you need to make this successful. But I'd like to think that you were all organized as to who's going to do what before it starts on Thursday of week 5, the first day of week 5. I did want to show you one other thing. Here's some of the topics in discussion. Very clever stuff. Bert and Ernie get married, talent, who knew, the history of you. People wrote really creative stuff, and then in this particular one, Terry is the teacher, and Diane writes something, and the teacher writes back, and Diane writes something, and Marty writes back. So you get the idea for that. I know you're going to do a good job, and remember, you're not being graded on the quality of this masterpiece that you're going to write. You're going to be graded on how well you work together and get something accomplished. Hope this helps. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.